recorded. And the topic of AI is a big topic, and so I am going to be doing more. It's a more of an informative. It's more of a presentation. It's not a workshop. It is more of a presentation to inform. And there are many reasons why I'm taking this route for this particular webinar, because I've been having conversations with many business owners, founders, leaders, and there just seems to be a lack of awareness, or there's a lot of stuff that's just going on, a lot of hype, a lot of noise, and I definitely want to play a role of helping us to gain some clarity in what is going on. And so just to introduce myself, my name is Toyo Shimbi. I'm the founder of Business Leaders Coach. We want to empower leaders to build businesses that grow and flourish. And obviously AI is playing a key role in this. It wasn't something that maybe many of us saw the impact that it was going to have in such a short amount of time. But I can tell you with certainty that this is going to change everything. Now, I remember, for those of you that also remember, just before the internet came to be what it is, I remember reading Times Magazine, News Magazine, and them saying this is going to change how we do everything. I was just finishing university at the time, and I remember I've still got one of the magazines in Newsweek that showed that we're going to be able to do this, and that. And I still remember speaking to some people who just couldn't believe. And I think we are in that space again, where it is very difficult to imagine what is actually the impact that this is going to have. And so this, as I said, is more of an informative webinar where I definitely want us to be equipped on knowing how to navigate through this time. So what we're going to be looking at is AI strategy, and there's a reason why that becomes the key word. Quick start, content blueprint for the modern SMB. Now, this came out of a survey that I ran. And so you can see there that I want to give you a practical framework for small, medium-sized businesses to be able to navigate the adoption with confidence, focusing on human-led implementation that delivers return on investment. Why is that the case? Well, a few weeks ago, I ran a survey among founders and CEOs of small, medium-sized companies, and the response that I got showed that over 80% of founders and CEOs are either exploring or experimenting with AI or AI agents, or piloting AI agents, or actively using AI agents. Well, we had 16% that said that they're not considering it at this time. Now, just a word, if you fall into that category, then my challenge to you is to wake up, okay? Because whether we like it or not, AI is going to play a key role. Whatever you're doing is going to play a key role. Now, I will also say at the same time, you got to focus on what you're focusing on and not get distracted. So there might be reasons why you're saying it's not at this time, but I would encourage you to at least keep your eye on it, because things are moving so fast that you do need to know how to navigate in this time. But let's think about the 80% of the business owners that are actually implementing or thinking about implementing. Now, if you're online and you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat. If you are on Zoom, sorry, if you are on LinkedIn, also use the chat. I might have to get back to you later on, but definitely if you have any questions, put it there. And as I said, this is going to be on my platform anyway, so you'll be able to come back to it as well. So again, thinking about the over 80%, right? The AI crossroad opportunity versus overwhelm. So what's happening is that the current landscape presents a significant challenge for SMB, small organizations, whether they're not for profit or for profit, doesn't matter. And the reason is because the imperative of about engaging with artificial intelligence amidst a climate of confusion and overwhelm is that there's a pervasive feeling that exists among business leaders that they must do something with AI, yet they lack a clear starting point. And so the sentiment is not unfounded. You know, data indicates that a substantial majority, approximately 80%. Now, this is the research that I have done, by the way, that I'm quoting, but well, I found it interesting that in my survey, also 80% of business owners responded in this way. But 80%, right, of these SMB leaders possess only a basic understanding of AI's capabilities, which is making it difficult to align technology projects with strategic business goals. And so this knowledge gap creates a significant barrier to effective implementation and often leads to a lower return on investment for those who proceed without a clear plan. And so what is this turning into? Where one path is inaction, right, driven by analysis paralysis, which risks allowing more agile competitors to gain a significant advantage. And what we're seeing is that, I've fallen into this myself, that every day there's a new tool. It can do this, it can do that. You play around with it, but you find out that you just get overwhelmed. Then the second is chaotic adoption, right? And which just, it's almost like it's the same thing, right? It involves chaotic reactive adoption of, desperate AI tools, which introduces hidden risks and unforeseen costs. And so sometimes we're quick to adopt certain things, but we haven't even thought about what the risks and costs are for those tools. And what we are finding is that over time, now, as I said, I've had interactions with some of you, and people have shared. I've asked them, so what is it? And some say, I'm just trying to catch up. I'm just dabbling around with it. And then there's some people that have got to that place where they realize that, oh, wow, actually, I need a strategic approach. And what you're going to find is that most of the time, you're then going to realize that you need deliberate human-led implementation. Yes, you might see some of these fancy roadmaps of AI can do X and then pass it on to this and then pass it on to that. And what we're finding out is that, yes, those things can work, but without there being a strategic approach to it, it sort of just goes all over the place. So the availability of accessible AI tools is no longer the primary barrier. You see, the real change is a strategic approach. So the challenge lies in the strategic and knowledge gap at the leadership level, because everybody now has access to these AI tools, and in some cases the prices, it might not be as costly as we might have thought at the beginning. And so what SMBs need most is not more technology right now, but a guiding mental model for decision making that cuts through the noise and focuses on solving tangible business problems. And that's what I want to sort of set the scene up for today. As I said, it is going to be information led, but also practical. And those who stay on at the end, I've also got a checklist that I'll be sending to you. And also there'll be an invitation for maybe us to work together in one way or the other. But first of all, let's look at some of the things that are out there. There is a common narrative around AI that centers around on automation and the replacement of human workers. Now, we do have some very well-known figures in the marketplace, in the industry, who have said a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. And there is some truth to that, that people will lose their jobs. I have a client who's in the medical space, and he was telling me that a lot of his clients, that the people that he places into these well-known organizations, these are experts in their field, and they are resisting. Like, they are just blind. They said, no, we've got too much experience, that AI will not take our jobs. But the sad news is AI will take many jobs. But, and here's the thing, AI will not replace human workers. There's a difference, isn't it? There's a difference between being replaced because of the role you're doing now and the role that you might be playing later on. And I think that's the key thing here that we're emphasizing, is that there's a myth, right? The second thing is that this perspective is not only, well, I mean, first of all, let's just, coming back to this, that it's not only intimidating, but also it is strategically flawed, because the most effective application of AI is not replacement, but it's collaboration. And so the principle is the foundation of what I call the frontier firm. And this is where you have an organization that strategically blends human leadership with AI-powered agents to achieve new levels of efficiency, productivity, and innovation. And so the guiding philosophy is simple and powerful. AI operates, but humans lead. In fact, right from the beginning of this whole AI, maybe about 2 years ago, as I reflected on this myself, I came to the conclusion, and maybe you've read any of my posts, I realized that the position that we have to take is, it is important that we lead AI. Human beings must lead AI. AI does not know where it's going. It needs leadership. And human beings must choose to play that role. Yes, we can partner, but at the end of the day, in the same way as a leader can create a facilitative environment, there's some areas where the leader has to make the final decision. And that's the sort of perspective that we need to have when it comes to implementing, adopting AI. That should be the principle. That's the foundation. That has to be the mindset that we use when it comes to AI. I have read books, in fact, I've got one of them here, that actually suggests that a group of people should ask AI for their values. I mean, what is that? No, you choose your values. Now, you can use AI to describe it better. You can use AI to facilitate your thinking around those values. But no, you don't tell AI to help you choose your values. We're going in the wrong direction. I hope this is making sense. So, human-led AI, right? The division of labor. And so what might this look like? And again, this is the thing that we're not hearing a lot. We're even hearing things like, think AI first, AI first. There's some things that people say that when you think about it, you think, well, where did they get that from? I mean, why would we think AI first? Where did that come from? No, human-led model, which will establish a clear and effective division of labor. And so what role do we play? Humans are tasked with the elements that require context, ethical judgment, and strategic foresight. They define objectives, they set operational and ethical boundaries, and they provide critical context that machines lack and make the final decisive judgments. And I think that's the reason why this is important, because that judgment part is something that we cannot, delegate that to an AI agent. And this is the reason why it does become critical. So what role does AI then play? AI agents. Well, AI agents then, in turn, they are responsible for the execution of well-defined tasks and workflows, handling repetitive processes, and analyzing vast data sets and niches and things that can be scaled, information that gets overwhelming. These are the kind of things that AI agents can actually execute on. So by delegating these menial and routine work, businesses can free their employees to focus on high value activities. For instance, like strategic thinking, creativity, innovation. And so what this does is that it shifts and transforms existing roles into more dynamic and impactful positions for let's look at some examples of what this might look like. Okay. So these will be evolving roles, and I am happy that I get to share this with you because I do think that this is kind of like where we're going in the future, right? And this is the reason why I have had to really study this, because it got to a point where I realized that the way I've been coaching, training, leadership has to change. You get it? And I'm going to give an example through these roles, for instance. And this is the reason why I said even the 16% that said that they're not considering AI at the moment, well, you have to, because now you're going to find out that your responsibility is no longer just to people, but to some AI agents in your organization as well. That might sound weird, that, well, we've got some other people in our workforce. Yes. And you can even interact with these workforces. They can even ask you questions. So when you think about it, leadership has to now take a different role. I hope all this is making sense to you, to be able to understand that we need to rewire and reshape some of the things that we're doing. But let me give you these examples. Okay. A project manager. So a project manager evolves into an AI team manager, responsible for coordinating the efforts of both human team members and specialized AI agents to achieve project outcomes. Can you see how you're not only now just overseeing people, you're now overseeing AI agents as well? What about an analyst? Well, an analyst can become an insight expert, leveraging AI agents to perform the laborious tasks of data collection and processing, thereby dedicating their expertise to interpreting that data and translating it into actionable strategic advice. So can you see now that our roles are changing? So this is the reason why AI will take some jobs, but it would elevate other jobs into, they'll be defined differently. So what about your customer service rep? Well, this can transition into an experience designer using AI chatbots to handle routine inquiries while they focus on resolving complex customer issues and building lasting relationships. Now, I did hear of a story of an organization that they unleashed these AI chatbots, and as you know, sometimes I think we're still in a world where we're still getting used to this, and it got to a point where whenever the AI chatbots didn't answer the question properly, people got frustrated, right? And so what they found was that, yes, the customer, the human being, was always getting what you would call the more difficult scenarios, where obviously by the time that person gets elevated to a human being, the customer is already frustrated. So they're dealing with somebody at a negative state. I'm mentioning that because these are some of the things that we have to think about, which is that, do we want our customers to always, first of all, interact with AI agents before then speaking to human beings, So can you see the reason why I challenge this thing about AI first? You can see that why would you want to do that? What about if some people actually, they want to speak to a human being first, and then if the human being says, you know what, I'm going to hand you over to this AI agent. It's already been designed to do X, Y, Z. That might be even a better approach. That might actually be a USP, which is that, hey, we speak to you first as a human, and then yes, we use AI. So I'm just helping us to think that we all just don't have to follow what everybody else is doing. We need to use our own initiatives to make sure that this blend is working appropriately. I hope that makes sense. So again, this human-led also just going through the AI process in itself. Now, there are some risks, right, that we need to also be aware of. So this model of human-led AI is more than an ethical preference because it serves as a fundamental risk mitigation strategy. The primary danger of ungoverned AI, such as, for instance, biased outputs, the generation of misinformation, and the compliance failures, are directly counteracted by the core tenet of this framework that I'm presenting to you. By embedding human judgment, ethical oversight, and adaptability into AI workflows from the outset, an organization builds a robust defense against the very risks that make uncontrolled AI adoption so hazardous. Now, there are many stories of this having taken place. So this proactive stance establishes the human-led framework as a logical and necessary foundation for any safe and successful AI implementation. As I said, the whole point here is to help us see that, no, we've got work to do. We've got to think this through. Now, let's talk about some practical things that you can even start to do right after this webinar. So one of the most common mistakes, right, in AI adoption is focusing on the technology itself rather than the problem it is meant to solve. And you've heard me talk about that earlier on. And this is the reason why whatever people might think AI first means, to the average person, that person is obviously thinking, oh, I've got to just jump into AI first, because that's what you hear, right? AI first, let's just jump into technology. But when you think about it, even before AI, we already knew that the technology is supposed to enhance, not necessarily make all the decisions, right? And so, rather than this whole idea, a powerful reframing of this challenge comes from a simple analogy, right? Socket wrenches do not solve socket wrench problems, they solve bolt problems. And so similarly, AI solutions do not solve AI problems, they solve specific, tangible business problems. And what I see that we are forgetting is that we're forgetting that actually these tools should be solving problems. And I've been there myself. I've said it, Gemini will come up with a new image creation tool, Opal, they're just pumping out these things. You can do this, you can do that. But you think, okay, what problem is it solving? And I think that's the question we've always got to be asking, is that what problem do we need to solve? You get it? So identifying these bolt problems is the critical first step towards a successful, high ROI AI initiative. I don't know if there's any comments on, I'm just checking because I don't know how, if there are any comments, but if anybody has a comment or anything, whether you're online with me on Zoom or you are live with me on on LinkedIn, feel free to put something in the chat. I will see it, and hopefully we'll get back to you. But this is the whole thing. So a bolt problem can be defined as a specific, reoccurring, and time-consuming issue within a business that follows a predictable pattern making it an ideal candidate for AI-driven process enhancement. And if I was just to park there, I've worked with a number of companies to know that I actually think that that's one of the areas where we need to be aware of, which is that first, before you're even thinking about bringing in AI to anything, do you have a predictable pattern? Do you have systems and processes where you already know that this is what we're doing, that you now want to automate it? And I think that's a starting point where you find out that I've spoken to AI service providers, and they've told me that a lot of business owners, a lot of founders, they come and help me sort this out, but they don't even have a process of doing that already. And so it is very difficult to automate something that's not already a process. And so that's the reason why you got to have a strategy, and you got to know what exactly it is that you're trying to solve. And so the most effective way to uncover these opportunities is not through top-down directives, but through direct engagement with the teams on the front lines. And this is the reason why Business Leaders Coach is putting emphasis on the strategic thinking of AI, because the people that are perhaps even going to use the AI tools, yes, you're most likely going to be using some of these tools, but it's the people at the front end, okay, that are maybe customer facing or project management or whatever departments it might be. But your role is now shifting. And this is the reason why you do have to get involved if you are a leader. Leaders should speak directly with their staff to identify existing pain points, cumbersome manual workarounds, and unmet operational needs. These conversations often reveal the most pressing bolt problems that are ripe for an AI-powered solution. So many of these issues are common across SMBs, and they fall into several key categories, which I'm going to be sharing with you today, just to give you an idea of what this would look like. So as you can see, the most effective way to uncover these opportunities is not through top-down, as I've said. And so you're going to need a structured approach to identify these opportunities that can transform an abstract goal into a concrete action plan. And so the following matrix that I'm going to share with you, it connects common business pains with their corresponding AI solutions and accessible tools. I'm going to give you some categories of what we typically see. So we've said here, speaking directly with staff, looking for manual workarounds, then identifying unmet needs. So this would be the first step. And as I said, I've spoken to many business owners, and I know that many have not done this. They've not come up with a strategic approach. Some have, right? But some haven't. It's just like this, just dive in. I'm going to share about what typically happens. But the areas where we also find where there are problems in most small, medium-sized businesses, typically organizations, the customer service, market and sales, operations and admin, HR, recruitment, finance, things like that. And as you can see, there will be a typical problem where you're trying to navigate around that, or the team are trying to navigate around that difficulty, creating consistent content, poor targeting, manual data entry, resource intensive, resume screening in terms of recruitment, HR, high volume, competitive inquiries. So all these are areas where you can, first of all, and these are, I will call this, you be hearing me say bolt problems, but I'll also interchange it with low hanging fruit. If you're going to start using AI, you should do this process first, because in doing this, facilitating this with the team, you are then most likely going to have a clear, specific pinpointed pain points, right? Where your team will be able to express what actually are we trying to solve here? And then if we solve it, what do we gain? And then once you have that clarity, Now we can start to think about the tools that can help with that. So as you can see in this situation here, we can see that AI chatbots becomes a good option. And then we can then go deeper and say, which type of AI chatbots might we want to use? For instance, with marketing, again, we talk about difficulty with consistent content, poor campaign targeting. But if we get that sorted, then we have automated generation of content drafts. And again, even with this, you might find that you need a human in the loop, right, to validate certain content before it goes out. Is this something that we're proud to have out there in the marketplace? You get it? So you can see that it's not all just automated even. You can see that, but most likely you'll be able to speed things up. And then you can then choose the right tool. I hope this is making sense. Then what happens though, right, is if you as the leader, if you are not proactive in taking the charge on this, let me just sip a bit of water, right? Something happens, and maybe it's already happening in your organization. It's called shadow AI. So while many organizations are still debating on official AI strategy, whether you like it or not, your employees, your team members, your colleagues have most likely already started to use AI. And I think it's fair to say most employees are using AI. But this phenomenon is known as shadow AI, and is defined as the use of AI tools and services without an organization's formal visibility, approval, or governance. And it's the modern successor to, in the IT world, it was called shadow IT. But it carries more complex and dynamic and unpredictable risks due to the nature of AI models. And so this AI, it emerges, as we've said, due to many, many reasons. As you can see on the screen, the adoption of AI is, it's rarely malicious. And in this case, nobody's doing this with any kind of intent or, but it is most often driven by busy employees seeking to be more productive and efficient by solving their very bold problems previously discussed. And why wouldn't you? If you think that this is slowing you down and somebody tells you that this tool can do it in just a few seconds, then absolutely you will do that, right? So when an organization has unclear policies, restrictive processes, or fails to provide sanctioned tools to address these inefficiencies, employees will inevitably find their way, they'll find their own solution. And this is the reason, again, why my call is to leaders to really take this seriously, because it's already out there. And I spoke to a CEO just last week. Now, he used to oversee a large number of people. Now he's doing some consultancy work on his own. And this is what he told me. He said, oh, I wanted to take some data from this place, upload it into this CRM. He said, Tori, I did it in 30 minutes. And I said, oh, that was, and he said, but do you know what? He said, this same exact activity in the place I was working before, 6 months, we were still debating around it. And he was telling me that, you know what, I myself, I was so far removed from this challenge that I didn't see the importance of it. You get it? And the reason why I am mentioning this is because you might not realize that this is important for you to put as a high priority because the people are going to go out and use these tools anyway. So the existence of a pressing bolt creates an operational vacuum that, if left unaddressed by leadership, it will be filled by shadow AI. And this makes a proactive strategy for solving these core business challenges not just a pathway to efficiency, but also the most effective defense against the significant risks of ungoverned AI use. Now, what might be some of these critical risks of shadow AI? We have some stories. Every day there's a new story coming out. I got just three here that just helps us to understand why governance is such an important part, policies is such an important part of this whole AI explosion, and leadership has to take ownership of this area. So data exposure and loss of confidentiality. You know, when employees input company information into public AI tools, that data can be used for model training or otherwise be exposed. And this can lead to the unintentional leakage of sensitive customer data, trade secrets, and intellectual property. A stark real-world example occurred when multiple Samsung employees pasted proprietary source code into ChatGPT because the model can be trained on user inputs that valuable intellectual property was put at risk of being incorporated into the model and potentially exposed to the public. You know, we've had charities putting information of their volunteers or people that they're serving. You know, so this is a serious thing. We've also got misinformation and biased outputs. You know, generative AI models are known to hallucinate or produce convincing yet entirely false information. So acting on such misinformation can have severe consequences. For instance, two New York lawyers were fined $5,000 and suffered significant professional embarrassment after submitting a legal brief containing fictitious case citations generated by ChatGPT. Furthermore, AI models trained on biased data from the internet can perpetrate and amplify those biases, leading to outputs that are unfair or do not align with organizations' values. A last one here is compliance and non-compliance and legal risks. You know, the use of ungoverned AI tools can easily lead to violations of data protection and privacy regulations, such as GDPR, HIPAA, or CCPA. And so since shadow AI operates outside of official auditing and monitoring processes, it creates a compliance blind spot. An accidental data breach or misuse of personal information through an unvetted tool can result in severe fines, legal action, and lasting reputational damage. Now, I'm sharing this with you because, again, a lot of us, you know, we see the tool, we play around with it, and we don't know how to put the protections in and all these type of things. We've all got to be careful. Now, there are things that you do want out there, you know, because, for instance, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, they're also now being used as search engines. So you need to have the skill, the know-how, the policy, what to put in your private ChatGPT or whatever agent you're using, and what to put in the public, because again, that is how you can be found. So I hope this is helpful. If you are online, if you're with me on Zoom, you want to put in the chat, is this helpful? Has this helped? Any key learns? What's, maybe if I was to ask, what's the one thing so far that maybe I've mentioned that has been helpful. If you just use the chat, that would be good to know that I'm not just speaking into the air. As I begin to wrap up, in just as we go through, okay, so where do you go from here? So first of all, let's look at your first steps, a practical path. So navigating the complexities of AI adoption doesn't require a massive enterprise-wide overhaul. So the journey begins with a clear mindset and a single focus step. So the core principles for a successful start can be distilled into these three pillars that you can see on the screen. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to adopt a human-led mindset. Okay, so we want to position technology as a tool to augment human expertise. We want to remember the principle: AI operates and you lead. And I think that's if there's anything as the foundational points around this, that's the starting point. AI operates, you lead. The second thing we then want to do is we want to identify your what we call your number one bolt problem, right? Or the low-hanging fruit, as another way of putting it. So we want to resist the urge to solve every problem at once. We want to focus on the single most impactful area of friction in your business. And I think that's the best place to start. And, if you're not familiar with all these tools, you might want to even make that a personal thing. Things that you can do even for yourself, just to get a feel. I know many people are using these different tools. Note taking, for instance, is a good one. I've got an AI agent. I've created an agent that I put a transcript of a meeting in it, and it immediately summarizes it and puts the actions and everything just like that in just 5 seconds. So these are little things that you can start to play around with that can speed up some of the things, and you get a handle of it. And obviously, as I said, if you've got a team, you want to definitely go to the team and find out what their pain points are, so that they can also have official ways of being able to solve those challenges. And then number three, again, we want to acknowledge and address shadow AI. Understand that ungoverned AI use is likely already happening. Make the invisible visible by opening a dialogue with your team and providing sanctioned alternatives, making sure that you've got cover in that. So what might this look like when you've identified one of the bolts that is going to be beneficial for your organization? Well, the most successful AI adoption strategies begin small. So concentrating on specific workflows and building momentum from proven wins. The recommended approach is to select one bolt and launch, I would say, like a 91-day pilot project. This allows the organization to test a solution, measure the return on investment, and gather learnings in a low risk, controlled environment before committing to a larger rollout. This measured approach transforms the daunting challenge of AI implementation into a manageable and strategic process. And what you can use, which I'm going to give to those who are online with me, what you can use is something that I've called the small medium size business AI readiness checklist. Now, what this checklist does is that it helps you to identify what might be your area of the pain point. So it's a questionnaire. Let me even see if I can bring it up. I might not be able to show it. But for those who are with me online, okay, I am sending that to you right now. So it's coming through the chat. If maybe one of you at least could just acknowledge that you've got it. So that's the SMB AI readiness. And what it would do, it asks you some questions so that it can help you to filter what might be the area to focus on. Are we ready for this? And those would be some of the best next steps to take, right? So you want to complete the AI readiness checklist, then you want to design a 90-91 day pilot, and then you want to consider expert guidance as well. And so I did say that this would be between 45 to 60 minutes. So before we wrap up, I want to give you at least two clear next steps. Okay, first, if you recognize significant opportunities for AI in your business and would like to explore this further, if you're online with me, you can drop a quick message in the chat. Even if it's just, I'm interested, that's fine. Just put something in the chat and I'll reach out personally to you to have a conversation to see what that might look like. And second, for those who perhaps want to go deeper, we're going to start running a dedicated AI strategy workshop, right? A dedicated AI strategy workshop. And this is a more hands-on session where we audit your current business process and identify your top AI opportunities. We map out a 91-day AI roadmap that delivers tangible wins. And then we'll try and help you to put in guardrails for safe, compliant adoption as well. And this obviously will ensure that every step aligns with your long-term vision and objectives. And so, yeah, if you're interested in that, you can also put in the chat, just say workshop, and I'll get back to you. Or if you're watching this on replay, you can email me at toye@businessleaderscoach.com, and then we can have a chat. If you want us to work with you and your team in-house, if you're based in the UK, we can come and do that at your premises. If you're abroad, we can also facilitate this online as well. So again, just indicate, email, put something in the chat. Let's have a conversation about how that would work. And then we'll also be running these workshops if it's just you or you want to bring your team to our online version, you can do that as well. So if you do have any questions, if you're online with me, please put that in the chat. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. So finally, just to mention that the journey into this AI is a marathon. It's not a sprint. But by leading with strategy, focusing on real business problems, and keeping people firmly in control of the AI that you're using is going to help you. But definitely, I want to encourage you to take hold of this. This is changing how we do everything. I have recorded this, and the replay of this is also going to be in the Business Leaders Coach community. And so if you want to get the replay of this, you can join the community. It is free, and that's at businessleaderscoach.com/CO. So you can also join in there, and then you get the replay. Or you can go to my LinkedIn page, which is Toye Oshunbi, and it will be rolling there as soon as we finish. So thank you very much for participating, for hearing this, and thanks for your feedback as well for those who are in the chat. And I look forward to another session of speaking to you later on. Thank you, and speak to you soon. Take care.